I'm with Annette du Heaume, CTL Plus Complaints Group. It's all about buses. What on earth's gone wrong with the buses?
That's a very, very good question, actually, to be honest. I don't know. It seems that this new company have come in and they've looked at what was done and just said, no, we're not doing it that way, we're changing it completely. Now, Connex built up the bus service over 10 years, and within 6 months, CT Plus came in and destroyed it. They changed the shifts, they changed the hours, they changed the wages. And all it's done is confuse and anger the public and upset the staff. Your
husband's a bus driver. Was he a bus driver with Connex?
He was, yes.
Has the service, as far as he's concerned, or the awareness of you're talking to him and his friends, has it got worse?
Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, it's 100 times worse for him.
For the staff and the customers?
I think so, yeah. I know the information staff are having a hard time because they're obviously having to deal with all the complaints. The cleaners, they have lost a week's holiday a year and their pay has been cut. The mechanics are working to a shift pattern now, so they start at 5 in the morning and they might not finish till goodness knows when at night, when the last bus comes in, whenever that is. They do a Saturday rota. The ones that work a Saturday morning are then on call for 12 hours, and they don't get paid for being on call unless they're called in. They also have what they call a lone worker policy, it's called, where a member of the mechanic staff is allowed to be in the workshop working on their own. To my mind, that's a health and safety issue. It was looked at. Health and safety said it's not illegal, so we can't do anything about that. As far as the driver's side of it goes, with Connex, the shifts were a weekly shift. So from Monday through to Saturday, we knew what our partners were doing. We knew when their meal breaks were. We knew when they'd be home. Now, they change daily. We don't know what time they're going to work. We don't know what time they're coming home. We certainly don't know when their meal breaks are. They haven't got a clue until they turn up for work. And they can walk into work expecting to start at 7, and it's been changed. And nobody's told them. There was talk of one guy who had his day off, as he should have, went in the following day, and they pulled him on a disciplinary and said, "Where were you?" He said, "It was my day off." "No, your shift changed." But they never told him.
When CT Plus took over, or at the point they were about to take over, there was a lot of discussion about the terms and conditions which Connex had and how these were supposed to apply and didn't. Did they, in fact, what happened on the handover when it came to the crunch?
I don't know how it happened. I know there was a clause in the first stage tender documents that stated all terms and conditions were to remain the same as at time of tender, which would have been 2011. They came in and it was completely changed, and Deputy Lewis said that it was because Connex hadn't given the relevant information at the relevant time. It was information that they didn't actually need to make the tender. As far as we're aware, they didn't need it. Had they needed the information, then how could they have tendered for it if they didn't have it, along with all the other companies that tendered? So they either had the information that allowed them to tender and they're lying, or nobody had it.
The previous bus company, the JMT, Mr. Lewis as it was then, there were similar problems then, supposedly, about getting information out of that company. It wouldn't have seemed that difficult after all these years running basically the same routes to know everything there is possibly to know about bus services in Jersey.
No, you'd think, wouldn't you? The information, from what I can gather, that should have gone out was they wanted to know what the hours the drivers were working. They wanted to know the wages they were earning. They wanted names, addresses, all the rest of it. They didn't need that to tender. All they needed to know was how much the wage bill was. How many hours as a group they were working, I suppose. They certainly didn't need to know names and addresses. The number of staff, maybe, but not the names and addresses of them all. They wanted that, and it had to be supplied, but it had to be supplied 2 weeks before CTP took over.
There were several aspects to buses. There were school buses, as were then there were holiday buses, holiday coaches. There was a holiday service which JMT took on once he lost what he called it. I forget what he called the service. And there's the main omnibus service. That ought to be capable of being rationalised. Under the current scheme, how much of that has been rationalised? They've got a school bus, presumably.
They still do the school buses. They have their regular routes, as Connex had regular routes. They took the Island Explorer that Connex created, with the coloured routes, which made everything lovely and simple. You knew what colour was going where and when. They said, no, we're not doing that, we're obliterating it and we're changing it and calling it the Liberty Link. If you look at the Liberty Link routes, they're almost identical. In fact, I think there's only one that's got a slight difference. So they all do exactly what the Island Explorer did, but they didn't want it to be Island Explorer.
Because one of the basic problems was about the services are required at different times of the day, and it was always somebody wanting to have the whole lot of the bus services so they can employ adequate drivers to cover school, holiday, commuter, get the whole lot working in happy harmony.
Yeah.
But for some reason, that hasn't...
CT can't seem to do that. No, Connex did it. Connex had in the region of 70 drivers, I think it was. They managed it just fine. The school buses, the Explorers, the full-time service. And it worked. CT haven't been able to do that. They've got more drivers now than Connex ever had.
And you know how many they have now?
They say 110. I'm not certain if that's all the staff. You could take a guess. If they say 110, there's about 6 in the workshop. There's 3 on the info desk and 2 or 3 cleaners.
Most of those would have worked presumably previously for Connex.
A good few have left now. Yeah, there are a fair few that have left. The original staff have left, and a lot of newbies have come in. But a good percentage of them are the original drivers, and were there with JMT as well.
With this threatened strike, which may or may not take place, there was rumour about CMT bringing in, CT Plus bringing in drivers from outside as strike breakers, basically. Is that being realised? Has it been realised?
Yes, they brought in, from what I hear, approximately 17 of them. Put them up in a guest house, and they were on or are on standby, depending on what happens. To my mind, whether they can do it or not, I don't know, but they've brought them in. I'm assuming they've had the Social Security registration cards. I'm assuming they've been police checked, and I'm assuming they've been given the local PSV or bus driver's badge. If they have, how have they gotten round it? At a guess, they've been classed as temporary. But if they've got their Social Security registration cards and they've got their DBS badges, are they then entitled to stay here and work if they choose to? In which case, what happens with this new Social Security law they brought in?
And they presumably are all, the jobs, people from the existing drivers haven't been sacked, so those jobs are still filled. So they've got 2 people for doing one job. It's somewhere in the system.
At a guess, I was under the impression they would bring them in, the strike would be ending, or the strike would happen, and then they would send them back.
There's a lot of confusion about what is the actual reason for the strike. There's talk about an accident that took place or didn't take place.
Yeah, the drivers, the staff were, actually it was all the staff, everyone focused on the drivers, it was all staff balloted. And they were balloted on the dismissal of actually 2 drivers, although one said no, we're pulling out of that. So it was the dismissal of 1 driver, and it was excessive shifts, and they were balloted on both, and it was 89.3, I think, % of those who voted for action. They also sat down and decided, and this was at one of the union meetings, they decided that at the time striking on behalf of or in the support of the driver wasn't appropriate because he was still going through an employment tribunal. Why it was put across in the media as that was the sole reason, I don't know. I don't know if there was somebody within the union said that, or if it was just Nick Corbell said that, or whatever. But whoever said it, they latched onto it, and that's what everybody thought was.
If there is a strike, that's all departments, all the employees of the bus company are on strike?
It won't be management. Well, obviously. The inspectors, as far as I'm aware, it was them, the info staff, cleaners, mechanics and drivers.
Right. Coincidentally or otherwise, Guernsey, the same company operating their bus service, is also having problems.
Yes, they are.
Are they related? Is it?
Yes, same company, same mess. It's in Guernsey it's slightly different because they have a 2-year contract, and their environment department controls it, and it appears to be that they have the chance to extend that contract for another year. So however you look at it, they've only got until April next year, technically, and then they'll review it and give them, or not give them, another year. So Guernsey only have them for 3 years, we're stuck with them for 7.
The role of the trade union, as always, comes up for criticism because unions can do no right, apparently, in the Channel Islands. What is their role in this? Are they leading this?
No, the union, from what I can gather from what my husband tells me, is there to support the staff in what they want to do. If the staff believe that they have a good enough reason to go on strike or take action of some description, it's, to my mind, the union's job to back them up, I guess, and act as a mediator between them and whoever they've got the issues with, in this case CT+. As far as I can figure, that's what's happened this time, except for Mr. Corbell and telling people things he shouldn't have told them. So I don't know what will happen in the future with it, though, whether they will find their own voice, if you like, their own spokesman.
Within the bus company, the organisation, the employees, the workers, what sort of structure do they have to represent themselves? Well, obviously they must have union reps.
They do have union reps. There is, as far as I know, 3 of them. And these guys, if there's a disciplinary, they try and get the union reps to go. There was talk that the company were going, no, we want to talk to you on your own, which that's not right. If they're part of the union, they have union representation, they're entitled to that. So these guys were just going, well, I'm not going there. Was
the trade union stronger under Connex?
I don't know if it was stronger under Connex, but Connex seemed to listen more. I think that, I suppose the staff had the advantage that if they went on strike with Connex, Connex had no other staff elsewhere, really, that they would bring in. But they were more inclined to listen and to...
I mean, there has been talk on the buses, when I'm a traveller on the buses, that this company is actually trying to get rid of the union.
Yeah.
You think that's...
I think they are. It's my opinion. It's not going to be everybody's opinion.
No.
It's my opinion that they want rid of all the original staff.
But the people surely by this stage in the history of the world realise that union representation saves aggravation, don't they?
Oh, you'd think. You'd think. But, I mean, I've never been a union member at all, ever. I've never held with unions particularly, but because I've seen what's going on from a different perspective to the travelling public as such, although I do use the bus on occasions, I see a completely different side, and I see why the unions are important. And talking to other people that are involved in unions, like Sam Mesick, you can see how they're useful and why people need them. And I think the problem is that a lot of the public, because they don't have a union in their workplace, don't really see a need for it. And, you know, they'll turn around and say, well, I haven't had a pay increase in 5 years, what am I supposed to do? Don't join the union. They'll help you get one.
Well, we've seen in the past 7 days bakery workers, 40 of them, losing their job. We've had shipping workers, another 40 of them, just literally on the morning, called in, you've lost your jobs.
Yeah.
I mean, if people can't see why they need a union in those circumstances, then...
I think a lot of people bury their heads in the sand, to be honest. And I was talking to friends about this the other night. I had, you know, if it wasn't for the fact that we're involved with the bus company, I wouldn't probably worry too much about it. It doesn't concern me, it doesn't concern my family. So I would do the traditional Jersey thing and bury my head in the sand. And I think a lot of people do that. And then you mention the word strike, and that's enough to get them up. Get their back up every single time.
Political representation, you're out in the wilds of, I think you're St. Juan or St. Peter.
St. Peter.
Do you have any political representation out here?
Not that I know of. I suppose we should have, but we never see a politician out here.
I don't suppose you have much of a bus service in this wild place?
No, our nearest bus stop's a mile away. So if we need to catch the bus, we walk. But I don't. The buses aren't reliable. They won't get me where I need to be when I need to be there. So I take my car. And
this same discussion has been about a bus service reaching the far reaches of the island has been going on for as long as I can remember.
Oh, it's been going on for donkey's years. But saying that, it is not really feasible to have a bus, and certainly not the buses that CT Plus have got, driving to the wilds of St. Juan's to pick up one person. It's not economical. The
people who know about the service, obviously the customers, their consultation was effectively cut out when Constable Crowcroft was heading the relevant committee years ago. Whenever the licence came up, the public were invited to make comment. That was stopped. So effectively the public are out. How about the drivers? Do they get to say anything about how the service is organised?
They used to. With Connex, they worked out the shifts together. There was a particular person who organised the shifts. The shifts would then go to the drivers, and the drivers would look through them and go, yes, that works, no, that doesn't, and it would then go back. That hasn't happened. As far as we can work out, the shifts are done by a computer on the mainland.
Because they get feedback every day from the customers on the buses, don't they? So they know exactly what the public wants.
Yeah, and they've told the management, and the management aren't well, management aren't listening, apparently, although they tell me otherwise. I got in touch with them via Twitter, and they tell me that the winter timetable is receiving great support from the public, from the consultations. Well, what consultations? I've not seen any.
The word management is a little bit weird in this instance, because who is the actual management of this company? It's a bit vague, isn't it?
Yeah, well, Kevin Hart is the manager. He runs CT Plus Liberty Bus here, and he has his little group. Louis is, or came over from Connex. He was the first one employed, and they're only just now starting to let him do his job, which was to organise the shifts and the routes and the timings of everything. He was brought in, and the first thing they did was send him to England to sort out a problem over there. So
because they do operate bus services after a fashion in the UK, I believe, but under a different name.
They run routes. I won't say they run a bus service. They run routes, and the biggest one is that we know of. We haven't delved too deep, but they run 9 routes in London. They had issues in 2010 with their drivers over there, and they, I think, went on strike and were offered money to cross the picket line. This is public. It's in the public domain. That's accessible to the public, because we found it on the Unite site. So it was, it was.
You started a group of you started a blog site or a Facebook site.
I read comments on Facebook. I saw the Guernsey, heard about Guernsey having problems and searched, and thought, it's ridiculous. I set up my own. Unfortunately, there is a page called Bad and Good Business Jersey. It's a great page. It's absolutely fantastic. But a lot of people class the bus service as a bad business or a good business, and they post on there. I know the administrators aren't keen, and I keep trying to send them to the complaints group, or somebody else set up a Liberty Bus, what's your opinion? And trying to get people to post there, but they just seem a little bit reluctant.
Has the bus company or even the union engaged with you on your site?
Not me, no. No.
Would you like them to engage in public?
The bus company spoke to my husband and asked him if I would like to go and have a chat with them and air my grievances. I didn't think at the time it was a good idea, because I know what I'm like and I would lose my temper. Now, after the last lot of fiascos and the things that they've put across in the media, they can come to me. If they want to talk, I'm here, come talk to me. But I'm not going to them.
Okay, I've more or less finished everything I want to say. Anything you want to add?
No, just I wish they would sort it out and the staff were happy. It's not just the shifts and everything else, although that, at the moment, for the drivers is the main reason, because they're taking the brunt of the passenger complaints. Although people are phoning up and complaining, every person that gets on the bus is complaining that they're late or something's gone wrong. And they're copying it every day, and they're bringing it home. And it's hard. And there isn't even the sort of bonus of a decent wage packet at the end of each week. The wages are more than half. They've dropped by more than half than what Connex were paying. And Connex they paid well. They did pay well. But it's incredibly hard to survive on. And we're averaging, actually I won't say how much we're averaging, but we're struggling. We are really struggling.
And if there is a strike, obviously you'll lose money.
Yes. Yeah, the guys will take a financial hit, all of them. I know there are guys that are looking to put their house on the market because they can't afford their mortgage now. So, to my mind, if they're willing to take that financial hit, they must feel extremely strongly about their grievances. Maybe the public need to look at that.
Okay.